Alright, so, which side were we going? That first was going.
Right. Walkthrough, you want to do the walkthrough?
So,
Yeah, sure. We'll do the walkthrough. Let them see everything.
We're making a few little adjustments today, so after we finish here, then I'll push over to Delmar, but it looks really nice, you're gonna be very happy.
Right, let me set the names of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the personnel.
how y'all doing? Y'all ready right now? Look, I got something for y'all. I know y'all working hard.
Thank you. Woo! Thank you. They are.
Where's my other crew? Where? Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in there eating lunch.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Yeah.
I say it's right.
Well, let's turn around.
Okay, that's what they sent you to see.
So we got those slots. And we have tents. We got the personnel from the hospital. We got everything from the PPE. So what we're going to do is the PPE arrived there yesterday. It's what we see. So it's last year PPE package. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, we take that and we're going to keep this going. This is about to run out. So that every ship on that PPE over there, we can bring it over here.
How are you all? So, we are expecting to start supplying enough of
Oh, good.
yesterday. How are you all? Thank you all. Where
Where your cupcakes? You got cupcakes.
Wait,
You got
wait,
one?
just after they
We got
get
one
the
for
PPE,
you.
when y'all get a moment, when y'all get a moment,
When we
you
get
know.
home. Where can we leave them?
Yes, I left some on the other side too, you know.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Thank you all, okay?
You want
Thank
to
you
make
all.
sure you say the box for this end.
So we're going, they're not PPEs.
Hey, we appreciate it.
No, we appreciate y'all, we appreciate you all, okay, so thank you.
So right now,
Y'all doing good? Yeah.
I know.
Appreciate it.
Foot.
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
all right, so this is clean side, it's dirty side. And so right now we've got the one lane, which that crew took a break. And now we're about to go back out, the second lane going. There's 4 lanes. There's a line here for everyone. We're running 2 lanes. So when we set up Delmar, people are going to be jumping. And that's what we're going to be opening up to the counties, which is actually double branded. In the city webpage to start getting help coming through.
So you're just setting up that one.
So that's what we said. We were expecting shipment yesterday. Making shipment. So they're expecting one on Thursday and one on Friday. Thursday shipment on Friday. So maybe they'll show up today.
All right, well, let's hope it shows up today and we can get started on this at the other side on Monday. And then I'm reinforcing that testing will go up. But we've been saying that all along.
Well, yeah, and today, so today. That's why the delay was from yesterday to today. All that double cross checking. The log jam was use that computer system. Sure. And now they have the curve taken out the same basis. So.
Okay. All right. Are we going to do something with the rest before the weather changes?
Yes, sir. So we have the flare set up. I know you haven't seen the front side. Would you like to go around and see everything?
Yeah.
And then we can put the camera on one too. Because you're not going to do one. I think we have 2 ready to go. Okay. Does that work?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Just do the one camera. This one.
Thank you all again.
Mayor, so the mics are over there.
No, we'll go over there.
Okay.
Unless it starts raining.
Yeah.
So you might want to tell them to bring them
Okay.
over here. We'll get them on the. But you can do something on the natural camera, right? Natural mic.
Thank you all.
I mean, I can if I just had to.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
We're working, we submitted a star request for additional supplies. I was talking with Gina, Tumor Region 6, and help move forward. In addition, there's some stuff that they need that we don't need. They don't need.
Okay. Can we get it now? You want to tell him to bring it over now?
We're in the Polaris. Maybe we can swing by there, or you can, or just go ahead. Just go ahead.
get it
Yeah,
right
but
quick.
come back really quickly.
So you want me to tell 13 to come on as well, or what?
They're trying to find out if they have room for him, but they don't know for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Ask him if he wants to. Tell him to call me on my number.
Mike. No, I'm saying, give it to me. I might be getting the interview by myself, but they're trying to see if you can come. They're trying to see if you can come. But they might end up doing a fucking interview over there, man. See, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. Huh? I know they get walking. So have your mic in hand. I might be calling you over.
Follow with Jeff. So follow, right? Okay. Hey, Jack, Mary wants to know if she can ride with you.
How you doing? We're open 7 days a week, but we're not doing 7 days.
Open 7 days a week.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We're open 7
different
days a
shifts.
week. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so very, very much. Okay. I want to make sure that y'all can be
We appreciate it, sir.
now with the
Yeah,
we have them.
that's what we need. Try to open the other state.
Yeah. Mind the problem. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. Okay. Thank y'all. No. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. You doing okay? Y'all hanging in there? Good deal. I'm good. Catherine Darcy. How you doing? Y'all fun out? Appreciate it. Thanks. And check on y'all. All right. Okay. We're assessing everything y'all need. Stay out. Okay. We'll get it to y'all. All right. Thank y'all.
Y'all look good. Y'all look good. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. Thank you, guys. It's a different restaurant.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Now we're going
Now we're with the regular one. That's cool.
It's gonna be raining. Yes, yes. Hey.
You okay?
Okay.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. That's good.
Yeah, that's probably. Houston TX. The main city of Houston. I'm already set up. Mayor Sylvester Turner? Yeah. On the city.
Well, you know.
All right, let me kind of provide you an update in terms of what my schedule is today. Let me just say this: wanted to come out here and take a second look at the Butler testing site. And as you know, right now we've been testing people with first responders, healthcare providers, seniors 65 and older that are symptomatic. Then we went to people with underlying medical conditions, and now we're going to be expanding the testing site who's eligible, and that's anyone who's symptomatic. So if you are symptomatic now, you are eligible for being tested. Doesn't matter whether you're a first responder, healthcare provider, or a senior citizen, or people with underlying ailments. If you are symptomatic, regardless of your age, we're now going to expand the testing site. With regards to this particular site, Butler, you know, we now have enough supplies that at least take us now through Tuesday. We're going to take it in phases because the supplies come in shipments at different times. And so we know that we'll be able to do this site, stand up this site through Tuesday, and hopefully even longer. And then with respect to the other site, we've done the Del Mar site. You know, we're keeping our fingers crossed and praying that we are hopeful that we can set that site up Monday, Tuesday. The only thing that we're waiting on are additional PPEs, personal protection equipment. And so once we get that equipment, and we are hopeful that we'll get it hopefully today, then we can stand up both of the Houston sites Monday, Tuesday. So give us a little leeway, but that's what we're looking at. And again, we're expanding eligibility for the testing sites. If you're symptomatic, you know, cough, fever, tightness of chest, all of those things, you will now be eligible. Simply go through the protocol. With respect to the testing numbers, you know, we are getting numbers coming from our hospitals, from the different labs, you know, whether they are the Houston lab or we're having to send tests out to other labs from the private sector. Numbers are coming down from the CDC to the state. And we always knew, for example, that the number, the 69 number, was really not representative of the community spread. You know, I've consistently said to people, let's not get so caught up in the numbers, but I'm expecting that number today in the city of Houston to go to about 232. And that's when all of the reporting comes in from the different labs, the hospitals, the Houston labs, coming from the CDC, coming down, that we are now catching up with that backlog. And so the number in Houston will go to about 232. But again, I don't want people to get, you know, just caught up on the numbers, because even with that 232, we know that there are more cases in the city of Houston. So we know that, okay? The numbers are going to rise as we do more testing like we're doing today. Those numbers will rise. And that gives us a better indication of what we are dealing with and the importance, for example, of stay home, work safe, engaging in social distancing. All of those things become critically important. So those numbers will continue to rise. So we're not surprised at all. And then as people report from the different organizations and units, those numbers are being compiled, and then we're making them available for you. So the number in Houston, based on the information I'm received, will go from like 69 to 232, and then we'll continue to assess. There has been a second death in the city of Houston. We've reported one already, and then based on the data and the information that they received, another one has been reported, and I'm going to ask Dr. Purse to speak to that. And then in terms of our first responders, we had 4 police officers, for example, that had been tested positively for COVID-19. And then as of this morning, as of today, 3 more have been added to that count. So it's now 7 police officers who have now been tested positively for COVID-19, and Chief Satterwhite certainly can speak to that. I do want to say thank you to all of the different units that are come together for standing up these testing sites and really for the work that they are doing. Again, our healthcare personnel. First, they're frontline responders. The medical center has been just incredible. Sterling is here representing the medical center and all our hospitals who have been working very tirelessly with the entire team, law enforcement across the board, from HPD to our school districts, Houston Independent School District Police, you know, the whole unit, all of them coming together. Houston Police Department, appreciate that. Houston Public Works, my municipal employees. You know, we don't often spend a lot of time talking about them, but I certainly do want to thank and acknowledge the municipal employees, and particularly public work employees, for really stepping up to helping us to set up these testing sites. Let me just pause now. Let me turn it over to Dr. Peirce.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd also like to echo his thanks to all the many groups that have helped us out, from the medical community to government and to the media, quite honestly, for getting out the message, because it's so important that our residents and our neighbors and our loved ones understand the importance of the situation. And your best defense is to be educated and to understand how to protect yourself and your family. As the mayor pointed out, our numbers went up quite a bit today. We've spent the last couple of days reconciling information, so we get a lot of information that comes in, as the mayor pointed out. And to illustrate, for example, we may get a report from a lab saying that Mr. X has a positive result, and then we'll also get a report from their doctor, because they're both required to report. So we have spent the last couple of days reconciling those to make sure that we only reported Mr. X one time and not multiple times, because if we didn't do that homework, we could have artificially inflated numbers. We feel it's more important that we give you accurate numbers than just the first numbers that come available. And so that's why there's been a little bit of a lag. In addition, also consider the fact that a lot of this information comes to us through computer systems, and a lot of it comes to us through faxed reports from different places. And so it takes a lot of legwork to get that reconciled. And so that's why there was that gap. And the other thing, and again, as the mayor pointed out, we have yet another unfortunate situation last evening with the death of another person. This is a woman in her 70s. She was hospitalized at the time, and her test result came back, unfortunately, the same day that she passed. And so I'm not going to give any more detail on that, because her family's just getting notified. The information being spread throughout her family right now. They obviously were notified last evening when she passed, the immediate family, but we're going to give the rest of the family a little bit of time to get the news. We don't want them learning about it via the media. And I think that's really it. Folks, we can slow this down. We can be successful. History has shown in other pandemics that when communities come together and do the right thing, both at the individual level as well as at the government level, then we can be successful in slowing this down, and that's what we anticipate is going to happen. Yeah.
Chief Satterwhite.
All right, so thanks to Mr. Mayor, Mayor Turner, and to Dr. Peirce, and to everybody. You know, it's really important just to highlight, I know they've already said it, but the collaboration that we have out here. I mean, you have the city, you have the police department, you have the National Guard, you have all the hospitals, and I'll get in trouble if I start trying to name them all. They're all represented by Sterling, so we're really thankful for that. Sterling Taylor with Methodist, and just everybody else. There's so many people coming out here, and it's just so important to highlight that this is one team. We're all in this together, and that's just what's really inspiring about this operation here. I know it's happening around the country, but I'm partial to Houston, you know, because we've managed major disasters and major incidents before, and it's always the same. And you know, under the mayor's leadership and Chief Acevedo and Chief Pena or the fire department, again, there's just so many people involved, and we don't have time to list them all, but we really do appreciate all of that. And the first responders are on the line. About the 7 officers, the 7 employees that we now have tested positive, well, that just kind of show you what we're facing out there. And I know that other first responder agencies, between fire, EMS, and everyone else, are all suffering the same thing. We were afraid. We've always tried to mitigate that and prevent our own employees from becoming positive, but this thing is very contagious, and our people are out there engaging persons and trying to help people that may be positive, and those things are going to happen. So I can assure you we're doing everything we can to take care of our force. You're going to see some different things as officers arrive on scenes, because we want to make sure that they're safe, so you're going to start seeing more and more officers wearing a face mask. It may be an odd thing to see in the field, to see a police officer show up with an N95 mask and gloves on. But remember, they're protecting themselves, but they're also there to protect you, because we don't know who might be positive. We don't want to take any chances. So they're still there to serve you. If you call the police, we are still coming. There are some ways that we are trying to limit that to some degree, where we can take a report over the phone and some other ways. But in the end, we are still here for you, and we will still show up if you need us. That is what we do, and we will still be out there patrolling the streets, patrolling the businesses. So it's important that they know that their businesses are safe. And so our officers are out there going, checking strip centers, checking all the hotspot locations everywhere. We're out there for you. We're asking the public when they don't have to be out to please, of course, listen and abide by the provisions and that the judge and the mayor have put out, because that helps us out. It helps us in managing and making sure that everyone's safe. So that's our message to the public. Again, we are also hopeful, like the mayor, we get more PPE, more resources. We can expand our capacity to the other site. We can serve more of the public, and we can find out who might actually be positive, and gives us greater visibility in the community and where we need to send our resources to help them out. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
And I do want to specifically also acknowledge the City of Houston Health Department and Health Department employees who are helping to stand up this particular site as well as the others. And so, these testing sites go 7 days a week. We're utilizing different shifts. So I do want to particularly highlight our City of Houston Health Department employees. I want to thank the National Guard that's also present, that's out here. They're helping to stand up this site, and it's allowing many of our police officers to go back to their regular duties, their regular shifts. So I do want to acknowledge them as well. Let me just repeat why we are doing what we are doing with a stay home, stay safe, work safe order, and that is it is our attempt collectively to blunt the progression of this virus, to slow down the growth, the spread, so that our healthcare delivery system is not overwhelmed. And we see what's happening in New York and in Louisiana, in other places. So we're trying to get ahead of that, to slow the progression. And so we need everyone to really take this situation seriously. And again, the social distancing is important. When you're in the parks, things of that nature, you just have to constantly remind yourself, because it's not something that we are used to. Not handshaking, we're not used to that. But please, if we work together, do it together, then we can slow down the progression. So let me stop if there are any questions.
What are some of your biggest concerns, Mayor, as of right now?
Well, my biggest concern, I know people have been home, students, kids have been home, college students and others have been home for quite some time. People get restless, can get tired of being in the house, those type of things, and start wanting to roll around. Or people just may look at the numbers and they may say, in New York, Mayor, the numbers in New York City, the numbers are 25,000. And in the state of New York is 45,000. But in the city of Houston, Mayor, the number is just 232. Mayor, there are over 2.3 million people just in the city alone, and 5 million people in our surrounding region. So that's not a big deal. Well, let me just say the testing has been limited, okay? We know that there are more cases. And the way I look at it, I take 232 and I multiply it times 10, okay? Because we just don't know. So don't get bogged down on the numbers, okay? Because the more testing we do, the numbers are gonna rise. So and I know we're reporting the numbers, but I don't want people to get fixated. I got a few calls yesterday from various people and saying, Mayor, the City of Houston's numbers are so low, are we overdoing it? Well, the reality is, we don't really know. This is an invisible sort of enemy out here. We don't know where it is. We don't know who has it or not. So you just have to take these steps to blunt the progression, because you don't want to wake up and all of a sudden the numbers are just way up and you have more people going to the hospitals than in ICU. So that's what we're trying to do.
I have a question from the Houston Chronicle. They want to know why the lag in the numbers, why all of a sudden is there a big jump in the numbers?
Dr. Percy, you want to explain that?
Thanks, Mayor. And I think I tried to explain that. So the numbers come in from a variety of different sources, and they need to be reconciled. Some of them come through computer programs, and yes, like all computer programs, you've had glitches in those from time to time and had to repair it, so that creates a delay. But really the biggest one is making sure that we're only reporting each patient one time, because generally we get at least 2 reports on each patient. It comes from the lab, and it also comes from the clinic or the doctor's office that reports it. And so when some of them come in by computer and many of them come in by a fax and a piece of paper, You have to have them. We've got a room full of people who are sitting there passing these papers on, trying to get this sorted out to make sure we only can count one person one time. And quite honestly, that's what we spent a lot of yesterday doing, because as the numbers came in, a lot of information, actually over the last 2 days, a lot of information started coming in. And so it was a little bit of catch up on our part and a little bit of a waterfall of information at the same time.
And the reality, you have hospitals that are testing, you've got private medical institutions, institutes that are testing, you've got different labs that are testing, so all these numbers are coming from different places, and we're doing the best we can to kind of reconcile these numbers and make sure we're reporting accurate numbers.
Just a quick follow-up to the Eastern Chronicles question. You touched on it, Mayor, but are all of these coming from private or public labs?
These are private and public.
Private and public.
So we're reconciling the private testing with the public testing, and then the results coming in from different labs, all flowing down to us. So that's why from time to time, day to day, every 2 or 3 days, you still have to reconcile, and that's why it's not, to me, we can't get just focused. The numbers give you some degree of what's taking place, but until you reconcile all of these numbers, the numbers are very fluid. And not just today, it'll be that case tomorrow, next week, week after next. The numbers are fluid because because there's testing that's taking place in so many different venues. Okay?
There was a couple of questions about shutting down Lake Houston. Have you guys thought about that? I know they said they saw a lot of boats out there.
We saw a lot of boats, and in fact, Chief Acevedo sent me some pictures of people out in Lake Houston, for example, not engaging in social distancing. We sent some people out, some officers out there, again, to remind people of the rule and encouraging people to take things seriously. Look, let me just say, government, we've taken some significant steps, but quite frankly, in the end, it's going to require the cooperation of everybody, individuals themselves. And that's why you have, I'm hoping that people will take this thing seriously. But social distancing, I don't care if you're on Lake Houston, I don't care if you're in the park, I don't care if you're in the neighborhood, I don't care if you're even in the grocery store or meat market, okay? You still need to engage in social distancing and provide that space.
So there's been no talk of shutting down the lake as of yet?
Let me just say that if, for example, a part of what I'm doing today when I leave the testing site is that I'm driving around the city of Houston to see whether or not people are complying with the rules. If it gets to the point, for example, that people are ignoring the request to engage in social distancing, then we may have to take the next step.
We're not to the point of a curfew or anything yet, right?
No, we're not at that point yet. No.
Okay, I have a couple more questions from Fox.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let me, Chief Saddleback.
Yeah, so yeah, we actually have just a couple of spaces out, places on the lake where we have a lot of boaters that are congregating. And to some degree, some of them have been complying, but some of them very recently have not, and they've been throwing larger gatherings than we would like to see. So we are always looking for cooperation. Just like anywhere else out in the city, our police officers, all our first responders, we're just trying to get cooperation, collaboration from the public, because like the mayor said, we're all in this together. But there is one specific area that's been a hot spot to a point, just a specific area, like Houston, that we are going to drop a little bit of a buoy barricade to stop people from wanting to go there, because that seems to be the hot spot. So the lake is still open, and obviously we want cooperation, collaboration from everybody. But if we identify a very small area that seems to be a problem or a hot spot, then we'll focus on that and try to take a couple of extra measures to keep people safe. And again, it's all about keeping people safe. So I know it's popular, but right now, safety rules the day.
While you're up there, just a question on the mask. Is that a new HPD mandate
So,
or policy?
well, yes, as of yesterday, the chief messaged out to to all of our officers, and we we want to protect our officers, but we know there's going to be direct contact or close enough contact that there's a potential for transmission of the virus over, and this is how we protect our officers. And again, I just want to say, we already have 7 employees that have already tested positive. So this is to protect everybody. As we show up, you're still going to get the same level of service. It may just look a little different. If we're keeping a little bit more distance, that's an alignment with all the professionals like Dr. Purse is asking us to do, and the police are going to do that. In those times when we don't have any choice, we have to close distance. Sadly, unfortunately, we still have people out there committing some violent crimes. I mean, thankfully, overall, I can say that our call load is somewhat down, and which makes sense. And I can say that with that, maybe we're seeing some numbers declining somewhat in our crime in certain sectors. We still are certainly having some violent crime, and we are asking people to, obviously to stop. But we will be out there, and we will still hold people accountable if they go out and try to victimize other people. Your police department is still on 24/7. We will still hold the line. We still will put take people and hold them accountable if they engage in those things. It just may look a little different because we're trying to protect our officers and everyone else.
Do you have anything? The DPS, I have another question. The DPS is at the airports today, Bush and Hobby, enforcing the quarantine rule made passed by, that was announced by the governor for people from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, or New Orleans. What concern do you have for those people who might be driving from Louisiana? Because we have a lot of people who drive from Louisiana to Houston.
Well, let me just say, about 2.5 weeks ago, I asked people to cease their travel, international travel, as well as domestic travel outside of the state of Texas. And that was more than 2 weeks ago. For City of Houston employees, for example, we have suspended all traveling outside of the state of Texas. And even for City of Houston employees, if you travel internationally, you must quarantine for 14 days. If you travel outside of the state of Texas, if you're a City of Houston employee, you must quarantine for 14 days because we want to keep everyone safe and we want to take every necessary precaution. And that's whether you are going by air, whether you are traveling by car, truck, motorcycle, or whether you engage in walking. If you walk outside of the state of Texas, and come back, I want you to quarantine for 14 days. So that's across the board because it doesn't matter whether you fly, whether you walk, whether you take a boat, the same rules apply. Go on.
The question might be for you, about the city's capacity. We know, you talked about the numbers. We know we're going to see a rise.
Yeah, so we do have a way of monitoring the occupancy rate at the hospitals and how many ICU beds are available and how many ventilators are available. And the hospitals have done a really good job of scaling back their operations. And as you know, most hospitals, in fact all hospitals, stopped elective operations. And so that has opened up some space. So right now, hospitals do have some vacancy. We're not looking to fill that right away, but it's being held. ICU beds are available today. Ventilators are available today in the city of Houston. And so right now, things are right where we would want them to be as we prepare for in case this turns worse. But again, if the public does what the mayor is asking them to do, the hospitals are doing what we've asked them to do, and your government is doing what is expected of us. And so if all three of those come together, we may not get into the crunch that we fear, but everyone has to do their part.
And lastly, what I would say, the goal is to flatten the curve, to slow the progression so that we can stay within the healthcare delivery system's ability to handle the cases that are coming in. That's the goal. And if I could use a terminology, I would say this is shared sacrifice. Okay, this is shared sacrifice on everybody's part, and everybody has some skin in the game. So it's shared sacrifice. If everyone does his or her part, then we can help to blunt the progression, and then we can maintain capacity within our healthcare delivery system, and everybody will be protected. So thank you all so very, very much, and we're going to be kind of going around the city of Houston kind of assessing what people are doing.